All right, number 16, California Public Employees Retirement System, CalPERS Unfunded Liability Committee. This is simply the next step. Where's Phil? There he is. The next step in the opportunity for citizens to get together at least monthly for a year to discuss solutions to our unfunded liability challenges we face as a city and indeed as an entire state. And what I need to do is, first of all, we'll get some public comment after I explain what we're doing. We need to add 2 members, or 2 of the members will be included from the city council to steer the meetings. I think it's appropriate, if you all don't mind, I would like to be at least one of the 2 to help be a part of that discussion monthly with folks, and we have one more opportunity.
Mr. Mayor, I'll step up and help you.
Thank you very much. So Mr. Shaw and I will be part of that steering committee. We'll go ahead and when we do that, that's the next step will be basically setting dates and get the information to be presented at the meetings, get staff to present it, and also Councilmember Shaw and I will be tasked with identifying the role, scope, the city resources that will be available to the folks to become a part of that, and also the time frame. So that will be our next step. Is there any public comment on it? Come on up, Phil. Thank you. I also have Mike Short, it looks like, wants to speak on that as well, which is fine. And Mike, you would get 5 minutes when you get your turn.
Mr. Mayor, I do appreciate this. This has been a long time coming. One of the things I would ask is that you stated on here that the council members will be the steering committee. Is the public going to be in on this, or are the council going to look after it? Why I bring this up is that we went through this years ago with the old water deal at the Hillcrest Water. And what we found at that time, you had the people at the city, you had the people on one side of the water system, and one side of the other side of the water system, and all 3 could not agree. And we would come to meetings, nothing would ever happen. Now, if the council is going to if they are going to be the steering committee, then they should tell the public what they're going to do. The reason I bring this up is because the attitude among all of these cities and counties is nothing can be done. If you make a phone call tomorrow morning and phone any mayor in the city asking him about the unfunded liability, he'll probably hang up on you. The other thing that I would bring up is that I don't think it's the unfunded liability you must look at. You must look at the entire pension issue. You don't know the unfunded liability. That was a mistake by CalPERS. You paid your funds in every year that they dictated, and somehow or other they mismanaged our money. And we all sit back and we let them tell you what to do, and you do it. You let our roads go to hell, and everybody seems to shake their head and say, well, okay, we'll get a check next month. So unfortunately, I can say that I have no skin in this game. I'm just up here trying to figure out what can be done, because I saw what was happening back in 2004, and nobody believed. So one of the people that didn't believe said, Phil, come back when you prove us wrong and say, I told you so. I don't have the guts to do that to anybody, but you have to stand up and say, PERS, it's our money. We're paying you to look after it. You haven't done a job. What are you going to do? You can't ask them. You have to tell them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Phil. And yes, there is no goal in mind. The whole purpose is to get public feedback as to solutions, and that's what we're looking for. So we're basically going to be there guiding and also be firsthand, your mouth to our ears listeners. So it doesn't have to go through a third party, just in an interest of efficiency. But it is your meeting, and we want to hear from you and whomever else shows up. So there we go.
I do, thank you.
You bet. Sir. Well,
My name's Thomas Burns, 1885 Greengate. So what he said, I'm on board with that. But I want to comment on the regional housing and the prior topic. Can I do that?
It's passed, I'm afraid, sir.
But I don't think you allowed public comment on it.
Yes, I did. Twice, actually.
I never heard. Okay, so we can't
Yeah, if
can't
you wanna-
comment on
If
it?
you want to make a comment, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll go ahead. Typically, it would be no, but go ahead.
I like what you said, Councilman Shaw. 100%. I'm 100% behind what you said. From where we sit out here, it looks like Councilman Cardozo is just trying to grease the skids for Gus. That's what it looks like. And Gus, you need to sharpen your pencil, trim the fat.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Short, come on up.
I've been blessed with some incredible opening acts tonight. I'm looking out. I'm Mike Short, 2347 Oregon Way at Shanghai Bend. Mayor Harris, members of the council. I'm going to read this because I'll probably screw it up otherwise. I've been trying for the longest time to really get my head around this unfunded liability issue. I mean, I've looked at charts, graphs, documents, everything, PowerPoint presentations. I can't figure it out, or I never could figure it out until I kind of stumbled on something the other day, and hopefully I can try to put this whole thing in some perspective, and that's not going to be easy, but I'm going to try. I'm calling this the Working Man or Woman's Guide to Understanding Public Compensation Packages. So all this stuff's been basically verified, so bear with me, I'll get it through quickly. The current salary of Yuba City's highest paid employee is $277,195 annually, including benefits. This number was verified on 4/16/19. The population of Yuba City was 66,860 residents as of the most recent census of 1/1/18. $277,195 compensation divided by 66,860 human beings equals $4.1495 per person. So every man, woman, and child in this town, whether they're 1 week old or whether they're an old codger like me, gets stuck with a bill in the amount of $4.1495 every year just to support one single Yuba City employee, and you have 291 more, as verified by email circa 4/1/19. I don't think you can buy much for $4.1495 these days, and I'd imagine 66,859 other people would probably agree with that. What a terrible, terrible drag on society. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Any other comment? All right. Welcome, Rick.
I'm not a city resident either. I'm a Live Oak resident. I think all of you know how severe the unfunded situation is. And let's not belabor that point, but it's an amazingly large number. One plan I've been observing for several years is the Yuba City, it's the Safety First plan. I wrote an article about it several years ago. It was a plan that the city abandoned or didn't add any new members to, like about 20 years ago. Am I right, Spencer? It's been about 20 years. Anyway, the result is now currently there's about 105 retirees in that plan. They were firemen and policemen, and now there's only 5 current workers. And looking at the valuation report for that plan, this year this city's going to be sending, taxpayers are going to be sending $1.4 million for those 5 employees. And so yeah, the unfunded is amazingly big problem. And there's a paragraph in the latest valuation reports, and it says, for inactive employers, the new amortization policy imposes a maximum amortization period of 15 years. Right now, on your unfunded, you pay around 7%. Is that right, Spencer? 7.25%, which is the expectation of investment return. But once these 5 employees who are left in this plan retire, you will now have an inactive plan an inactive employer plan. And the plans I've looked at, you can be paying as much as 10, 11, 12%. And the unfunded liability for that plan is 22 million. You start talking 10, 11, 12%, you're talking 2 or 3 million just for this one plan, which has no employees. So is the unfunded liability a problem? Yes, it is. And I trust that you are going to make a solid effort to inform the public, because everyone needs to be informed. I've been very impressed tonight with the meeting. I know you're all trying very hard. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
I really did write 16 on that one. I have my glasses on when I look at the number. They're talking more about the actual pension, but I want to go back. I didn't go to both meetings when you talked about having a committee, but I understood it was a citizens committee. So how many citizens members? And when I read the word steer, what exactly do you mean by that? I am a retired government employee. I handled statewide investigations. I know what steering is, but a citizen committee, they ought to be able to come up with ideas, develop plans, and not be totally controlled. But just the wording on this makes me think that you're simply wanting to control it. And you're not that kind of people, in my opinion. So maybe we ought to have a different term. And also define how many public members can actually set up and investigate. Now, I did a lot of things where government employees would come and report when we asked for information, but they didn't have a vote. They didn't write the report. The committee itself did. So this looks like a little bit too much control on your behalf. As much as I like that you're trying to clean it up, but I really think that you ought to think about it a little bit more, about getting some citizens to look at it. And as you're probably all aware, Sutter County just did something last week that really surprised us. They paid money direct to the employees, but it's not going into the retirement balances. That's one good idea right there. And when I worked, so many government agencies jumped right into this retirement plan because they got money for nothing. Well, excuse me, all of us taxpayers are paying that. And it used to be, if you work for the city, the county, the state, you got lower wages. In fact, when I refused to take a job with the state of California, I told them I was making more money working privately at an insurance company. Guess what? That very afternoon, they called me. They raised my rating 3 levels to get me on board. It's all changed now. The government pays more money than any of the local people around here. And we've got to have workers to pay those taxes. So please, think about a real committee. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Elaine. Anybody else care to speak? All right. You have a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I can follow up with some comments since I'm the other council member on
Thank you for that.
committee. To clarify a few things, I'm not expecting us to get together in a room and do nothing but gripe once a month for an hour, okay? We need to come together and think outside of the box. Call it steering, call it chairing, whatnot. The only 2 people that have the ability to form this committee as a subcommittee of the council and come up with its composition and everything else is the mayor and myself, as we're going to be the 2 council members on there. I do not see it as controlling. I just see it as probably a chair, maybe a vice chair, but I want to have open and honest dialogue. I do not want to have a complaint session once a month for an hour, and we need to kind of figure out what we can do. We do need to look at all things, but this is not a control mechanism. This is trying to get us to the ends of what has been needed for a long time, and I think that's what the mayor brought out was he's heard the concerns and he wants to listen to the citizens and come forward. So, steering doesn't bother me one way or the other. I think it's just a mechanism of chair and creating this darn thing because we are completely out of the box. But I'm looking forward to working with you. Okay?
One way to think about it, since we're making comment on it, is I can understand from your perspective where the word steering may have got you a little bit fired up. Think about it more as facilitating. We're going to be there to facilitate the discussion. I don't even plan on leading the meeting. It's yours. We're going to be there to listen. And I want to be there firsthand to listen, not via some report 2 weeks after the fact. That's why we're doing it that way. That help? What's that? You can change it to whatever you want. But there's your explanation. All right. Pat, are you going to talk or are we moving on? You're talking? Okay. Imagine that. It's all good. Bring it on.
Yeah, I agree with what Elaine said, and I would encourage you to do it more like a grand jury, where the grand jury is, they are the committee and they are working to find solutions with an advisor they can go to get information and answer questions. Thank you.
Good analogy. Thank you very much, Pat. Anybody else? All right.